Okay, hey guys, so Kian here, and welcome to your DashGL weekly update. So this week we've got two items to talk about. I guess I'll start with the more exciting one first. I guess we don't really need to call it exciting, but I guess the more pertinent one. Which is I managed to get a few UI updates on the Sulphur Bottom tool, which I've been working on. So now once you load in the stage, once you load in the files, it'll separate them out into stages, and you can click on each one of these and click through the stages. And if you notice that the entity list is being updated, so what it's doing is it's saying, hey, you clicked on stage 02, what assets do I have associated with that stage? And then it'll read the database and go through and find them for you. And it'll remember which one you clicked. So if I clicked on stage 2 and then click on stage 3 and then click on stage 2, back again, it remembers that you selected this item from stage 2. And so yeah, just like that, you can click and you can scroll. So the problem before was I was using I'm using Bootstrap, but I mean, more importantly, when using Bootstrap or Material UI and stuff like that, there's padding on these elements. So you don't know exactly how large they're going to be, which means you need to do flex. So that means at the top you have a header with padding of whatever size, and then you need to have a container for that, and then you need to say, okay, here's a big thing below it. Flex grow to fill in the rest of the space, and then here again you need to have say okay, here's flex again, order it with columns. This is a column, it's a fixed width. This is the column, it's a fixed width, and then grow this to the rest of whatever's there. And for whatever reason before, it wasn't fitting to the top. It wasn't recognizing that it need to stop at 100%. It was just growing exponent or growing to fit the content. So when I had a list of like 30 things, you can see that there's a list of rather than the element stopping here, it would just go down and continue way beyond the visible range of the screen, and then you couldn't scroll or see anything. Likewise, the canvas, I'm guessing the size of that was really screwed up for some reason because the cube was way too close to the screen. Now that's fixed. I use a hacky implementation. I just set everything to relative and absolute, which I think works fine. In this case, it's not what you would normally. It's not the proper elegant solution, but it is a quick and dirty solution. And I think that right now the results speak better than what's good coding, I guess. But anyways, now that I've gotten to this point, I can open up the console, and when we click on an item, it'll go ahead and read it for us. And there's the data associated with it, the bone data, the arrays, vertices, the skeletons, and the texture chords can all be selected on click, which means what we can do is we can start interpreting this data as a mesh, build the mesh, and then display it in the viewport. So that would be the next thing, the next update with this tool here. And so I also have this respond, so we can look for entities in a specific stage, we can look for stage styles in a specific page, and we can look for textures, which will be added as we go along. So that's it for the tool. As a kind of other topic about DashGL is I finally updated the homepage. Just a quick reminder, this is what it used to look like. So very simple, very straightforward. I tried to do my best to actually do responsive design and code this by hand because I'm not very good at Bootstrap or using a lot of these CSS libraries. So this was my horrible attempt at it. It's simple but effective, I guess. And so yeah, that was the old page, and I think just this new one looks a lot better. We've got tutorials, the blog, which is just going to be static and it's not going to do anything for a while. There's a free model of Dashi here if you want to download it, and there's the Dash model format. You can go ahead and download the plugins, and it should give you a idea of what's implemented in which plugins. And I think I want to update to model format 2.0. I think I'm at 1.2 or 1.3, somewhere in there right about now. I have a couple of changes that are going to be pretty drastic, and I think I just want to bump the version up super high rather than incrementally doing 1.4, 1.5. But yeah, so that's that. And then down here I've got my social links and stuff like that. Just a quick note about this is I've been kind of contemplating which one is better, Gatsby or NextJs. And I use Gatsby a little bit. If you don't know what Gatsby is a static site generator. So what it will do is it'll use React to render everything client side. And what you can do is you can build like very dynamic websites, like WordPress-ish kind of websites, where you where you have a blog, you can click through several pages, and then what you do is you can run the static site generator. It'll generate all the static pages, and then when you click on a link, it'll just change the render client side and change the root client side. But then there's a page at each one of the pages, so when a search engine comes and jumps to it, it can jump to any page. And that's kind of what it's for. There's also NextJs, which does something similar, but NextJS also lets you define a server side as well as static site generation. So I figured, hey, if NextJS does, you can do both server calls and static site generation, then why don't I just use NextJS for everything and learn how to use it, learn how to use the tool, use it as a tool and kind of learn its quirks and just kind of get more familiar with it for web development, because it really seems like a kind of jack of all trades. The one downside of that is I'm using NextJS to generate the static site. So if I click on About or something like that, you can see that it has changed on the static site, where it realizes that, About page. But if I reload it, I guess NextJS doesn't generate an HTML page to represent About, and it's just not here. So I'm guessing NextJS only generates an index page, which is kind of dumb. So I guess Gatsby was the correct option, and I might have to port this, or I definitely will have to port this over if I want to implement a blog or something like that directly in this page, because I do have blog.dashgl.com, but I'm using WordPress, and I think I want to export everything I have as a static site, and then just put that up as a reference, as an archive, and then move to markdown files that I can easily edit and don't need a live server to host on. And then that way I can just throw this on GitHub, generate the page whenever I make a new markdown, because it's going to be committed and generated anyways. And then that will give me a pretty dynamic site with very, very little overhead. And in fact, hosting on GitHub and GitLab is free. So when there's no overhead, it's literally free. Yeah, so that's it for this week. Just quick updates on the Sulphur Bottom tool. It's coming along. I got some of the UI stuff out of the way. And next we're going to be working on the logic. And for DashGL.com, I'm just super happy to finally have a decent looking site with responsive design and a nice, just kind of visually appealing site that looks nice. So that's it for this week, and I guess I will see you guys next week.